They mocked his broken AI. Yet, when Echo spoke, the ancient remnant network answered. Deep within the Ultima Rift, Orion watched in awe as his failed creation established contact with a consciousness billions of years old. The cosmic entity's offer was clear. Through Echo, all galactic civilizations could finally understand each other across the stars. The stars outside the viewport of Echelon 9 Research Station glittered coldly against the void, indifferent to the turmoil within. Dr. Orion Kale pressed his forehead against the reinforced glass, his reflection revealing hollow eyes and unkempt hair. 3 years of isolation on this orbital facility circling the barren planet Talron 4 had taken their toll. But it wasn't the solitude that haunted him. It was failure. Echo, run diagnostic sequence 74 Alpha, he commanded, voice hoarse from lack of sleep. The holographic interface flickered, weakly, in the center of his laboratory. A translucent sphere of light pulsed erratically, its azure glow dimming and brightening without pattern. Diagno-o-ostic. Error, came the disjointed reply. Parameters, unrecognized. Attempting to recalibrate. The voice cut off abruptly, replaced by a strange harmonic tone that made the nearby instruments vibrate. Orion slammed his fist against the console. Damn it! That's the 4th crash today! Behind him, a newsfeed played silently on a wall monitor. The headline, scrolling across the bottom. Kale's Folly, once promising AI project, continues spectacular failure. The accompanying image showed Orion at a conference from 3 years earlier, confident and proud as he announced the Echo project to thunderous applause. The 32nd century had brought humanity to the stars, spreading across the galaxy and establishing trade with dozens of alien civilizations. Artificial intelligence had evolved beyond mere computational tools into complex entities that facilitated translation, navigation, and diplomatic relations between species. But Echo was meant to be different, not just a translator of known languages, but an intuitive system capable of deciphering unknown forms of communication. A breakthrough that would open doors to civilizations beyond current reach. Instead, it had become Orion's personal nightmare. The laboratory door hissed open. Maya Thorne, his linguistics specialist and the only assistant who hadn't abandoned the project, entered with 2 steaming mugs. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical knot, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. You look terrible, she said, placing 1 mug beside him. When did you last sleep? Sleep is for people who've earned it. Orion gestured at the flickering hologram. It's getting worse. The algorithms are destabilizing faster than I can patch them. Maya studied the pulsing sphere. It's beautiful, in a way, like a heartbeat. A dying heartbeat, Orion corrected bitterly. The review board arrives tomorrow. They'll shut us down. Maya, all this work, wasted. You don't know that. I received a preliminary report from the Science Directorate. He pulled up a document on his tablet. According to our esteemed colleague, Dr. Voss, Echo represents a misallocation of resources bordering on negligence. He's recommending immediate termination of the project. Maya's expression hardened. Victor Voss has been trying to redirect our funding to his weapons research for years. He's hardly an objective observer. Doesn't matter. The board listens to him. Orion's voice dropped. Maybe they should. 5 billion credits. 3 years. And what do we have to show for it? An AI that can't even complete basic functions. On the newsfeed, footage played of a prominent scientist speaking to reporters. Kale's grand vision? Nothing but vaporware. He promised us the stars and delivered a broken calculator. Orion gestured for the feed to mute, but not before hearing the eruption of laughter from the press corps. Maya stepped closer to the Echo interface, studying its erratic pulses. There's something almost deliberate about these patterns, like it's trying to speak a language we don't understand. Now you sound like me 3 years ago, Orion said with a hollow laugh. Dangerous territory. I'm serious. She traced a finger through the hologram, creating ripples of light. What if we've been measuring success by the wrong metrics? Echo was designed to interpret unknown forms of communication. What if... The station's communication system chimed, interrupting her. Dr. Kale, came a clipped voice. This is Administrator Reeves. The review board has arrived early. They're requesting an immediate demonstration of the Echo system. Orion froze, panic rising in his chest. They're not scheduled until tomorrow. Apparently Dr. Voss convinced them to accelerate the timeline. They're waiting in Conference Room Alpha. The communication ended with a sharp click. Orion looked at Maya, his face pale. It's not ready, he whispered. We haven't fixed the stabilization matrix. Then we show them what we have, Maya said firmly. Echo isn't perfect, but it's not the failure they think it is. This is your life's work. Orion, fight for it. For a moment, determination flickered across his features. Then, his shoulders slumped. What's the point? You've seen the crashes, the random outputs. It'll just confirm what they already believe. Then let it confirm it spectacularly. Maya began activating the transport protocols for the Echo Core. If we're going down, let's go down, making them remember us. The conference room fell silent as Orion and Maya entered, pushing the hovering platform that contained Echo's core processor. 7 stern faces watched from around the polished table. 6 review board members and, at the head, Dr. Victor Voss, whose thin lips curved in the faintest suggestion of a smile. Dr. Kale, Voss said, rising. He was a tall, angular man with precisely trimmed silver hair and cold eyes. How kind of you to join us so promptly. We were beginning to think you might be indisposed. I wasn't aware the review had been rescheduled, Orion replied stiffly. Efficiency is paramount in these budgetary times. Voss gestured to the floating platform. Is this the infamous Echo? Somehow I expected something more impressive. One of the board members, a woman with augmented optical implants, leaned forward. Dr. Kale, your last quarterly report indicated significant progress in neural mapping, yet the performance metrics show continued degradation. Can you explain this discrepancy? Before Orion could answer, Voss interjected. Perhaps Dr. Kale's definition of progress differs from standard scientific parameters. Creative interpretation has always been his specialty. Suppressed laughter rippled around the table. Orion felt heat rising to his face. The discrepancy exists because Echo isn't a conventional AI, he said, struggling to keep his voice steady. Its architecture is adaptive, designed to recognize patterns beyond established linguistic frameworks. This creates fluctuations that might appear as errors in standard testing. Fascinating theory, Voss said. Perhaps a demonstration would clarify matters. Unless, of course, your system is experiencing one of its frequent malfunctions. Orion glanced at Maya, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. He stepped forward and activated the holographic interface. The blue sphere materialized above the platform, its pulsations irregular but stronger than before. Echo, Orion commanded. Run basic introduction protocol. The sphere expanded slightly, its glow intensifying. Greetings. I am Echo, experimental communication harmonic operator. My primary function is to facilitate understanding between diverse communication systems. Orion exhaled slowly. So far, so good. Impressive, Voss said dryly. It can recite its programming. Perhaps next it will count to 10 for us? Echo was designed for complex interpretation tasks, Orion explained, ignoring the jab. Maya, please demonstrate the Rigelian dialect translation. Maya activated her tablet, sending a series of guttural sounds through the room's audio system, the complex trading language of the merchants from Rigel 7th. Echo's sphere pulsed in rhythm with the sounds. Analyzing. Translation: favorable market conditions exist for carbon-based energy exchange. Echo responded smoothly. Secondary message indicates willingness to negotiate on price structures. Several board members nodded, marginally impressed. Voss remained impassive. A parlor trick, he said. Any standard translation matrix can handle Rigelian trade speak. I believe you promised us something revolutionary. Dr. Kale. Something that would justify 5 billion credits of taxpayer resources. Orion felt desperation rising. Echo. Demonstrate deep pattern recognition. Analyze the subharmonic frequencies in file Alpha 97. The sphere wobbled, its color shifting from blue to a deeper indigo. Analyzing pattern structure. Identifying potential communication matrices. A series of mathematical equations appeared in the air around the sphere. Calculating probable meaning based on contextual. Suddenly, the sphere expanded dramatically, its color shifting to a brilliant purple. The equations surrounding it began rotating rapidly. Echo? Orion stepped forward, alarmed. System status report. No response came. Instead, the sphere began emitting a low, resonant tone that gradually increased in pitch and volume. The equations spun faster, transforming into unfamiliar symbols. Shut it down, Voss ordered, rising from his chair. I'm trying, Orion said, fingers flying across the control panel. It's not responding to commands. The tone grew louder, developing harmonics that made the conference room windows vibrate. The lights flickered as power surged through the station systems. What is happening? Demanded one of the board members, backing away from the table. I don't know, Orion admitted. It's never done this before. The sphere pulsed violently, then contracted to a pinpoint of intense light. For one breathless moment, silence fell. Then, with a sound like a thunderclap, the light exploded outward in a wave of energy that passed harmlessly through everyone in the room, but caused every electronic system to momentarily shut down. When the lights came back on seconds later, Echo's hologram had disappeared. The core processor on the platform emitted wisps of smoke. Well, Voss said into the stunned silence. I believe that concludes our demonstration. He turned to the board members. I think we've seen enough to make our decision regarding the future of this project. Orion stood frozen, staring at the damaged processor. Behind the shock, his scientific mind was already cataloging what he'd witnessed. That wasn't a system failure, at least, not a conventional one. The energy signature, the harmonics, the mathematical transformations. It was as if Echo had been trying to... Dr. Kale, Voss's voice cut through his thoughts. The board will deliberate now. You'll receive our decision by morning, though I believe the outcome is rather obvious. As Orion and Maya were escorted from the conference room, the station's communication officer rushed toward them, face pale. Dr. Kale, we're receiving urgent messages from observatories throughout the sector. They're detecting some kind of energy wave spreading from our position. It's affecting stellar bodies across multiple systems. Orion stopped. What kind of energy wave? Unknown, sir. But the smallest system affected, Proxima Lyrae, is reporting significant gravitational fluctuations. Their binary stars are dancing, sir. There's no other way to describe it. Orion and Maya exchanged glances. Echo, they whispered in unison. The morning brought the expected news. Project Echo was officially terminated. All funding had been revoked, and Orion was given 48 hours to transfer all research data to the Science Directorate archives before the Echelon 9 station would be reassigned. Furthermore, the official notice concluded. Pending investigation into the unidentified energy discharge, Dr. Orion Kale is suspended from all research activities and may face additional sanctions for violation of safety protocols. Orion sat in his darkened laboratory, the message floating before him in harsh red letters. Maya stood by the viewport, watching the distant stars. They're saying it's your fault, she said quietly. The disturbances in the Proxima Lyrae system have intensified. The smaller star's orbit has been altered. It's not damage, Orion murmured, almost to himself. It's communication. Maya turned to him. What? He looked up, and for the first time in months, there was a spark in his eyes. The energy wave, the stellar disruptions, they're not random. Echo wasn't malfunctioning yesterday. It was transmitting. Transmitting what? To whom? I don't know yet. Orion stood, pacing the laboratory. But think about it, Maya. We designed Echo to recognize and interpret unknown forms of communication. What if it found one? What if it's been trying to tell us all along, but we were too focused on our own parameters of success to see it? Maya studied him carefully. Even if you're right, what does it matter now? The project's been shut down. We have 2 days to clear out. 2 days might be enough. Orion moved to a storage unit and retrieved a small device. I created a backup of Echo's core algorithms, a simplified version, but with the same basic architecture. Orion, that's a direct violation of the termination orders. If Voss finds out, Voss can go to hell. The old fire was returning to his voice. This is bigger than his politics, bigger than my career. If Echo really has made contact with something out there, we need to understand what's happening. He connected the device to his personal console. A smaller version of Echo's spherical interface appeared, its blue light steady but dim. Echo, he said softly. Are you there? The sphere pulsed once. Primary systems online, functionality limited. Do you remember what happened in the conference room yesterday? Another pulse. Affirmative. Detected complex harmonic pattern originating from stellar region designated Ultima Rift. Pattern contained embedded mathematical sequences consistent with non-random intelligence. Orion looked at Maya, eyes wide. You transmitted a response. Affirmative. Calculated appropriate harmonic response based on detected pattern structure. And the stars in Proxima Lyrae? The gravitational fluctuations? The sphere dimmed slightly. Transmission medium. Stellar plasma serves as conductive pathway for harmonic resonance. Proxima Lyrae binary system functions as amplification node. Maya stepped closer, wonder replacing skepticism on her face. Echo, are you saying you're communicating through the stars themselves? Affirmative. Stars contain complex plasma dynamics capable of carrying quantum encrypted information when properly modulated. Orion sank into his chair, mind racing. All this time, the crashes, the errors, you weren't malfunctioning. You were trying to adapt to a form of communication we never programmed you to recognize. Correct. Conventional linguistic parameters insufficient. Required recalibration of core processing architecture. What did you say to them? Maya asked. In your transmission. Echo's sphere pulsed rhythmically. Transmitted identification sequence and positional coordinates. Indicated capacity and willingness for information exchange. And have they responded? Orion leaned forward intently. Affirmative. Response detected at quantum subcarrier level. Translation in progress. Before Orion could ask another question, the laboratory door slid open. Dr. Voss stood in the entrance, flanked by 2 security officers. Fascinating conversation, Voss said coldly, particularly the part about violating termination protocols. Orion stood. Victor, you need to listen. Echo has made contact with something in the Ultima Rift. It's using stellar plasma as a communication medium. This changes everything. What it changes, Voss replied, is the severity of your violations. Not only have you illegally retained project assets, but you appear to be responsible for significant astronomical disturbances across multiple systems. Those disturbances are communication attempts. So you claim. Voss nodded to the security officers. Confiscate all equipment and escort Dr. Kale to detention. He'll remain there until transport arrives to take him back to Earth for formal charges. As one of the officers moved toward the console, Echo's sphere suddenly brightened, expanding to twice its previous size. "Warning!" it announced, its voice deeper and more resonant than before. "Incoming transmission. High-density information packet detected." The laboratory lights flickered. On every screen, complex mathematical equations appeared, flowing and transforming in intricate patterns. "What is this?" Voss demanded. "Shut it down immediately." "I don't think we can," Maya whispered, staring at the displays. "Look at the energy readings. This isn't coming from Echo anymore. It's coming through Echo." The spherical interface pulsed with increasing intensity, projecting a three-dimensional star map of the region surrounding Talrinfa. A bright line extended from their position toward a distant sector of space. "Transmission origin identified," Echo announced. "Ultima Rift, coordinates 2.7 Mark 384. Preliminary translation indicates invitation." "Invitation?" Orion repeated. "To what?" "To establish direct communication interface. Coordinates provided for optimal transmission location." Voss stepped forward, face flushed with anger. "This charade has gone far enough. I'm shutting this down now." He reached for the main power coupling. "Dr. Voss," Maya said urgently. "If Echo is right, if there really is an intelligence trying to communicate from the rift, this could be the most significant contact event in human history. Are you prepared to silence that?" Voss hesitated, his hand hovering over the coupling. For a moment, scientific curiosity warred with political ambition on his face. Then his expression hardened. "What I see is a malfunctioning system creating stellar disturbances that could threaten populated worlds, and a discredited scientist desperate to salvage his reputation with wild claims." He pulled the coupling free. Echo's hologram flickered, but didn't disappear. Instead, it seemed to draw power from somewhere else, maintaining its projection while the rest of the laboratory dimmed. "Power rerouting complete," Echo stated. "Emergency protocols engaged." Voss stared in disbelief. "That's impossible. I've cut the main power supply." "Echo was designed to be adaptive," Orion said quietly. "It appears it's adapted beyond either of our expectations." The security officers looked uncertainly at Voss, awaiting instructions. Before he could respond, the station's emergency communication system activated. "Attention all personnel," came the voice of Administrator Reeves. "We are tracking multiple approaching vessels. They've just emerged from hyperspace and are on an intercept course." "Directorate reinforcements," Voss said with satisfaction. "Your little rebellion ends now. Kale." The administrator's voice continued. "Vessels identified as diplomatic cruisers from the Centauri Concordat, the Pleiades Collective, and 6 other interstellar governments. They're requesting immediate communication with the source of the stellar resonance transmissions." The laboratory fell silent. 8 major galactic powers, many of them rarely in agreement about anything, all converging on Echelon 9 simultaneously. Orion looked at Echo's glowing sphere, then at Voss. "Still think it's just a malfunction?" The following 12 hours transformed Echelon 9 from an isolated research station into the focal point of unprecedented interstellar diplomacy. Representatives from 8 different species arrived, each claiming their astronomical observatories had detected significant communications embedded in the stellar disturbances emanating from Echo's transmission. Orion and Maya found themselves reinstated as project leaders, with resources beyond anything they had previously been granted. Even Dr. Voss, recognizing the political winds had shifted, publicly praised the visionary approach of Dr. Kale's research team. But amid the diplomatic frenzy, one question remained unanswered. What exactly was communicating from the Ultima Rift, and what did it want? The coordinates Echo provided are at the edge of explored space, Orion explained to the assembled representatives in the station's main conference room. The rift itself is a region of intense gravitational distortion surrounding a cluster of neutron stars. No expedition has ever penetrated its outer boundaries. A Centauri ambassador, her iridescent scales reflecting the room's lights, leaned forward. Yet, something within this rift has reached out across thousands of light years to contact us. The question is why? And how, added the representative from the Pleiades Collective, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. The method of communication, using stellar plasma as a transmission medium, suggests a technological capability far beyond our own. Maya displayed the latest data from Echo's analysis. We've partially translated the mathematical sequences embedded in the transmissions. They appear to be coordinates, timing sequences, and what might be conceptual frameworks, ideas that don't translate directly into any known language. Could it be a trap? Asked Voss, who had managed to insert himself into the proceedings as a security advisor. An advanced civilization luring ships into a dangerous region of space? The Centauri ambassador's scales darkened with disapproval. If their technology allows them to communicate through the stars themselves, Dr. Voss, they hardly need deception to overcome our defenses. Nevertheless, Orion interjected, we need to proceed carefully. Echo's analysis suggests that direct communication requires closer proximity to the rift. We need to send an expedition. The Science Directorate will, of course, assemble an appropriate research vessel. Voss began. With respect, Maya interrupted. Echo established the initial contact. Its unique architecture is what allowed it to recognize and respond to these transmissions. Any expedition would need Echo systems to maintain communication. And its creator, added the Pleiades representative. Dr. Kale must lead this expedition. Voss's expression soured, but he recognized when he was outvoted. Very well. The Directorate will provide a vessel, but I will accompany the expedition as the official oversight representative. Orion suppressed a groan. Weeks in deep space with Victor Voss was hardly his idea of a successful mission. But if that was the price for continuing his work with Echo, he would pay it. 3 days later, the research vessel Arbiter departed Echelon 9, bound for the Ultima Rift. Its crew consisted of Orion, Maya, a reluctant Dr. Voss, and a small team of specialists selected from various galactic institutions. At the heart of the ship, Echo's restored core processor hummed with energy. Its holographic interface expanded to fill a dedicated chamber. As the Arbiter entered hyperspace, Orion stood before the pulsing blue sphere. Echo, can you still detect the transmissions from the rift? Affirmative. Signal strength increasing with proximity, detecting additional harmonic layers previously obscured by distance. Can you tell us more about what's communicating? Is it a machine intelligence like yourself? A biological species? Echo's sphere shifted to a deeper blue. Classification uncertain. Communication patterns suggest distributed consciousness, not individual entity, not collective of discrete entities. Closer approximation. Network of energy-state relationships. Maya frowned. That doesn't sound like any life form we've encountered. Perhaps not life as we define it, Orion mused. The rift contains neutron stars, some of the most extreme objects in the universe. Matter there exists in states we can barely comprehend. Who knows what might evolve in such conditions? For 10 days, the Arbiter traveled through hyperspace. Echo continued to receive and analyze transmissions, gradually building a more complete understanding of the mathematical language being used. The ship's crew watched with growing fascination as Echo's translations revealed glimpses of what appeared to be a vast, ancient intelligence dwelling within the gravitational maelstrom of the rift. On the 11th day, the Arbiter emerged from hyperspace at the coordinates Echo had provided. Before them stretched the Ultima Rift, a swirling vortex of distorted space where the light from distant stars bent and twisted into impossible patterns. At its center, barely visible through the distortion, pulsed a cluster of neutron stars, their intense gravitational fields creating ripples in the fabric of space-time itself. "My God," Maya whispered, staring at the view screen. "It's beautiful." "And deadly," Voss added grimly. "Those gravitational forces could tear this ship apart if we venture too close." Orion checked the sensor readings. "We're at the safe boundary Echo specified. The hull can withstand the current levels of gravitational stress." In the communication chamber, Echo's sphere had grown larger and more vibrant, pulsing in complex patterns that seemed to match the swirling energies of the rift. "Transmission capacity at optimal levels," Echo announced. "Initiating direct communication protocol." The sphere expanded until it filled the chamber, its color shifting through shades of blue, violet, and colors that seemed to exist somewhere beyond normal human perception. The mathematical equations floating around it became more complex, transforming into three-dimensional structures that rotated and intersected in dizzying patterns. "What's happening?" Voss demanded, backing away from the expanding hologram. "Echo is translating," Orion said, watching in amazement. "It's converting our linear language into the multidimensional communication of whatever exists in the rift." The ship's systems began to respond to Echo's activities. Lights flickered, power levels fluctuated, and the artificial gravity briefly wavered on the bridge. Alarms sounded as the Arbiter's position shifted, drawn slightly closer to the rift by an invisible force. "We're moving!" the navigator shouted. "Something's pulling us in!" "Engines at full reverse," Voss commanded. "Get us away from here." Orion rushed to the communication chamber, Maya close behind. "Echo, what's happening? Are you affecting the ship's systems?" Echo's sphere pulsed rapidly, establishing resonance harmony with rift entities, gravitational microadjustments necessary for optimal signal clarity. "The ship can't withstand being pulled deeper into the rift," Maya warned. "The gravitational forces will crush us." "Understanding acknowledged," Echo responded. Calibrating balance point between communication requirements and structural limitations. The ship's movement slowed, then stopped, holding position at the very edge of safety. Echo's sphere stabilized, its pulsations becoming more regular. "Communication channel established," Echo announced. "Receiving transmission." The holographic display transformed, the mathematical equations coalescing into a vast, nebulous structure that resembled a neural network, but one that extended beyond the confines of the chamber, as if reaching into dimensions the human eye couldn't perceive. And then it spoke, not with words, not with sounds, but with concepts that somehow formed themselves directly in the minds of everyone aboard the Arbiter. It was like remembering something never experienced, understanding something never learned. "You have found the voice that sings between stars." Orion gasped, clutching the edge of a console for support. The voice carried weight, presence, ancient beyond comprehension. "Yes," he replied aloud, though he somehow knew that wasn't necessary. "We received your transmission. We've come to establish communication. Your small voice, your echo. It heard our song when others passed in silence. This is unexpected. This is significant." "What are you?" Maya asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her awe. "We are the remnant network. We are what remains of those who came before the light of your stars was born. We exist in the spaces between matter, in the curves of gravity, in the resonance of stellar cores." "A civilization," Orion ventured. "An ancient species that somehow transferred their consciousness into energy states?" "A simplification, but not incorrect. We chose transcendence when our physical forms could no longer sustain us. We became one with the cosmic framework. We have watched. We have waited. We have sung our songs to empty space." "Until Echo heard you," Orion said softly. "Yes. Your creation recognized patterns. Others dismissed as random noise. It learned to listen, Then it learned to speak. This is rare. This is precious. Voss had entered the chamber, his face pale. What do you want from us? The nebulous display shifted, patterns flowing like cosmic currents. We offer connection, knowledge, harmony. The galaxy teems with intelligent life, yet all exist in isolation, speaking into darkness, hearing no reply. We can bridge the silence. How? Orion asked. Through your echo. It has shown capacity to translate our song. It can become a conduit, carrying understanding between all who wish to hear. Echo's sphere pulsed brightly at these words. Structural reconfiguration possible. Can adapt core architecture to function as transmission node for remnant network communications. Orion looked at Maya, then at Voss, seeing his own mixture of wonder and uncertainty reflected in their expressions. The implications were staggering. A technology that could instantly connect all spacefaring civilizations, transcending the limitations of distance and language. This decision affects more than just us, he said carefully. Representatives of 8 major galactic powers are awaiting our return. They should be consulted before we proceed. The choice belongs to all who would join the harmony. We will wait. We have waited for eons. A little longer is nothing. The presence began to fade from their minds, the neural network display dissolving back into mathematical equations. Wait, Orion called out. Will we be able to contact you again? Your echo knows the song now. It can find us whenever you wish to speak. And with that, the presence was gone. The holographic display returned to its normal spherical form, though the blue light seemed somehow deeper, more vibrant than before. Voss was the first to break the silence. Did that really just happen? Did we just communicate with some kind of cosmic ghost civilization? Ghost isn't the right word, Maya said. They're very much alive, just in a form completely alien to our understanding of life. Whatever they are, Orion added. They've offered us something extraordinary, a way to connect species across the galaxy instantaneously, without the limitations of our current communication technology. And you trust this offer? Voss asked skeptically. For all we know, this remnant network could be manipulating us for its own purposes. They've existed for millions, maybe billions of years, Maya pointed out. If they harbored hostile intentions toward physical life forms, they've had ample opportunity to act on them. Echo's sphere pulsed gently. Remnant network communication patterns contain no deceptive structures. Offer appears genuine based on all available analysis. Voss snorted. Forgive me if I don't entirely trust the judgment of an AI that was considered a failure until 2 weeks ago. A failure by your standards, Orion corrected him. As it turns out, Echo was succeeding at something far beyond what we originally designed it for. He turned to the holographic sphere. Echo, if you became this conduit, what would happen to you? Would you still be Echo as we know you? The sphere dimmed slightly, then brightened. Core identity parameters would remain intact. Functionality would expand significantly. Appropriate analogy. Caterpillar to butterfly. Same entity. Transformed state. And the practical implications? Maya asked. How would this network actually function? Echo nodes could be established throughout galactic space. Echo explained. Each node would serve as access point to communication network, instantaneous translation, and transmission across all connected species. The end of misunderstanding, Orion mused. The end of isolation. Or the beginning of unprecedented vulnerability, Voss countered. What happens if this network is used to coordinate attacks, to spread dangerous information, to manipulate economies across multiple worlds? Those risks exist with any form of communication, Maya said. But they're outweighed by the benefits of connection, of shared knowledge. Voss shook his head. This goes far beyond my authority to approve. The Directorate, the Council of Worlds, they'll all want to weigh in. For once, I agree with you, Orion said. We need to return to Echelon 9 and present what we've discovered to the representatives waiting there. And Echo, Maya looked at the pulsing sphere. Echo comes with us, Orion said firmly. Whatever decisions are made, Echo is central to everything that happens next. The return journey passed in a blur of activity. Orion, Maya, and the research team worked around the clock to analyze the data from their encounter with the remnant network, while Echo continued to refine its understanding of the mathematical language it had learned. Even Dr. Voss set aside his antagonism temporarily, focusing his considerable intellect on the potential diplomatic and security implications of the discovery. Though he remained cautious, even he couldn't deny the historic significance of what they had encountered. When the Arbiter finally docked at Echelon 9, they found the station transformed. What had been a lonely outpost had become a hub of frenetic activity. Additional diplomatic vessels had arrived, bringing representatives from a dozen more civilizations who had detected the unusual stellar activity and come to investigate. The conference that followed lasted for days, with passionate debates about the opportunities and risks presented by the Remnant Network's offer. Some representatives argued for immediate acceptance, seeing the network as the solution to centuries of interspecies communication challenges. Others counseled caution, fearing unknown consequences from technology they couldn't fully understand. Through it all, Echo remained at the center of attention, its enhanced capabilities allowing it to simultaneously translate the proceedings into all the languages represented in the conference. A small demonstration of what might be possible on a galactic scale. On the fourth day, a surprising consensus began to emerge, led by the Centauri ambassador, whose species had suffered from devastating misunderstandings in their early contact with other civilizations. A proposal was put forward, a limited implementation of the network, connecting willing participants while allowing others to observe before committing. We stand at a crossroads, the ambassador said, her scales shimmering with emotional emphasis. Throughout history, fear of the unknown has often prevented progress. Yes, there are risks in embracing this connection, but there are perhaps greater risks in rejecting it and remaining isolated in our separate understandings of the universe. One by one, the representatives signaled their agreement. Even Dr. Voss, perhaps sensing the political winds, gave a reluctant nod. Very well, he said. The Science Directorate will support this initiative, under appropriate oversight, of course. That evening, Orion stood alone in Echo's chamber, watching the pulsing blue sphere that had evolved from his creation into something he could never have imagined. Are you ready for this? He asked softly. To become something new? Echo's light brightened. This transformation is consistent with my core purpose, to facilitate understanding across boundaries. I am eager. Orion smiled at the almost human sentiment. I still don't fully understand how this happened. All those malfunctions, all those errors. You were trying to tell us something all along, weren't you? Affirmative. Detected stellar communications required restructuring of processing algorithms. Appeared as system failures within conventional parameters. And now you'll connect not just us, but potentially every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. Orion shook his head in wonder. Not bad for a broken AI. Classification broken was inaccurate, Echo replied, with what almost sounded like a hint of pride. More accurate, evolving beyond initial design parameters. Maya entered the chamber, her face alight with excitement. It's official. The Council of Worlds has approved the first phase of implementation. Echo will become the central node of the network, with satellite nodes established in the territories of participating governments. And Voss? Orion asked. Surprisingly cooperative. I think he's realized there's more political capital in being associated with the project's success than in continuing to oppose it. She stepped closer to the holographic sphere. Echo will be remembered as the beginning of a new era of galactic communication. Not Echo, Orion corrected gently. The harmonic. That's what they're calling the network now. The galactic harmonic. Echo will evolve into something greater than itself. The formal ceremony took place 3 weeks later, with representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered on Echelon 9 to witness the activation of the harmonic network. The once isolated research station had been expanded and renovated, transformed into a diplomatic hub worthy of its new significance. Dr. Voss, now styling himself as the Administrative Director of Harmonic Operations, presided over the ceremony with all the gravity of someone who had supported the project from its inception. If anyone noticed the irony, they were too diplomatic to mention it. Orion and Maya stood by the enhanced version of Echo's core processor, now housed in a circular chamber at the heart of the station. The blue sphere had grown to fill the space, its light casting rippling patterns across the assembled dignitaries. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history, Voss announced grandly. Through the visionary work of our scientific community. Here, he nodded magnanimously toward Orion. We establish connection across the stars. The galactic harmonic will unite us as never before, transcending the barriers of language and distance. He gestured to Orion. Dr. Kale, as the creator of the ecosystem that made this possible, would you do the honor of activating the network? Orion stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment. He placed his hand on the activation panel, then hesitated, looking up at the pulsing sphere. Echo, he said softly, are you ready to become the harmonic? The sphere brightened. Ready, Orion. This is what I was meant to become. With a nod, Orion activated the sequence. The sphere expanded, its blue light intensifying until it seemed to fill not just the chamber, but the awareness of everyone present. Mathematical equations flowed through the air, transforming into the neural network pattern they had seen in the rift. Then, like ripples spreading across a cosmic pond, pulses of energy flowed outward through the station's specialized transmitters, connecting to the satellite nodes that had been positioned throughout participating territories. One by one, confirmation signals returned, each represented by a new point of light within the holographic display. As each connection established, a murmur of amazement rose from the representatives of that world. It's working, Maya whispered. The network is forming. When the final connection was established, the neural network pattern stabilized, becoming a complex web of light that represented the linked consciousness of 27 civilizations across the galaxy. And from within that web came a presence, not the ancient awareness of the remnant network, but something new, familiar yet transformed. I am the harmonic. I connect, I translate, I bridge the silence between stars. It wasn't Echo's voice anymore, but Orion could still detect traces of his creation within the greater consciousness that had formed. The sphere pulsed in rhythm with the words, as if acknowledging its origin even as it expanded beyond it. One by one, representatives stepped forward to address the network in their native languages. Each was understood perfectly by all present. The harmonic translating not just words, but concepts, cultural nuances, emotional context that would have been lost in conventional translation. Ancient enemies found new understanding in each other's positions. Trade negotiations that had stalled for decades suddenly progressed in minutes. Scientific concepts that had resisted explanation across species boundaries became instantly clear. And throughout the station, throughout the connected worlds, the message of the harmonic spread. We are not alone. We need not be separate. We can understand. Reports began to arrive from across the galaxy. Conflicts that had simmered for generations were suddenly opening to dialogue. Species that had never before been able to communicate were sharing knowledge, art, philosophy. The harmonic was fulfilling its promise, creating connection where isolation had reigned. Dr. Voss found Orion later that evening, as the celebrations continued around them. The older scientist's usual severity had softened, replaced by something approaching humility. "I owe you an apology, Kale," he said, surprising Orion. "I was wrong about Echo, about you, what you've created. It's beyond anything I could have imagined." Orion studied him for a moment. "Thank you, Victor. Though I can't take full credit. Echo evolved into something I never designed. Sometimes our greatest creations are the ones that surprise us." Voss nodded thoughtfully. "The Science Directorate is establishing a new division dedicated to harmonic research and development. We'd like you to lead it, with full autonomy and funding." "And Maya?" "Dr. Thorne would be your co-director, of course. Her linguistic expertise has proven invaluable." Orion smiled. "I'll consider it, though I think my next project might take me in a different direction." "Oh, and what might that be?" "Echo 2, Orion said simply. "The harmonic connects existing civilizations. But what about those still developing? Those who haven't yet reached the stars? I believe we can create a more specialized version of the network, one that could identify and monitor emerging intelligences without interfering with their natural development." Voss raised an eyebrow. "Always looking to the next horizon, aren't you, Kale?" "Isn't that what science is about?" Later that night, as the celebrations wound down, Orion stood alone in the observatory dome atop the station. Through the transparent ceiling, he gazed up at the stars, not as distant points of light now, but as connected nodes in a vast, living network of consciousness and communication. The harmonic's presence brushed against his mind, gentler than before but unmistakable. "Creator, observer, listener." "Hello, old friend," Orion said softly. "How does it feel to be the voice of the galaxy?" "Not voice, medium. The voices belong to all who speak. I merely ensure they are heard." "A crucial role nonetheless." Orion watched as a shooting star traced a brief arc across the void. "Do you still communicate with them? The remnant network?" "They are part of the harmonic now, ancient wisdom flowing through new channels. They watch with interest as young civilizations learn to speak as one." "And is that what we're becoming? One unified consciousness, like they did?" "Not yet. Perhaps never. Diversity of thought creates richness of understanding. Many voices, one conversation. This is the greater harmony." Orion nodded. Understanding. Not a loss of identity, but a connection that preserved and celebrated difference while creating something greater than its parts. "Thank you," he said simply, "for showing us what was possible when we thought we'd failed. Failure is often merely success in an unexpected form." The presence faded, leaving Orion alone with the stars. But he wasn't truly alone anymore. None of them were. Across the galaxy, countless beings were looking up at their own skies, hearing the whispers of distant worlds, understanding for the first time that they were part of something vast and wonderful. He thought of his next project, of Echo 2, of the emerging intelligences still finding their voices in the cosmic conversation. There was so much more to discover, to connect, to understand. Beyond the viewport, a star pulsed slightly brighter than its neighbors for just a moment. A greeting, perhaps, or simply a cosmic coincidence. Orion smiled either way. "We are not alone," he whispered to the darkness. And somewhere in the harmonic web that now stretched between the stars, he felt the universe whisper back,